So in this video, I'm going to be focused on my surrender draw, although the points that I'll be covering, they translate to other types of draws. So the very first thing that I work on when changing up my draw, or, like in this case, I have a gun that I haven't really fine-tuned or refined my draw stroke. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to establish a draw stroke that I can replicate exactly the same way every time. And in order to do that, there are a few things that you want to look for. First, you need to make sure that you're removing all unneeded movement. Any type of bending at the knees as you're drawing, head movement, shoulder movement, excessive hand movement, all of that, all it does is it adds wasted time and wasted effort in your draw. And it also makes trying to replicate those movements much more difficult because there's just more to memorize, right? So I'm going to run through a couple of these draws. So as you can see, the first thing is, as far as unneeded movement, right? As I go through this very slowly, you'll notice my shoulders don't really move. My knees are not bending. No real movement of my upper body. Really, the only thing that's moving for the most part are my hands. And that's what you want to focus on. You want to focus on reducing all of the extraneous movements, and so that the only thing that's really moving is your hands. The other thing you'll notice is I don't stop. It's all one continuous movement, right? So my hand doesn't stop on the gun and then bring it up. So I'm not doing what I think most people refer to as a snatch draw. I'm kind of scooping the gun out of my holster as it comes down. See? So that again is eliminating extra movement or extra motion in my draw stroke. If you notice, when I start my draw, my strong hand's on the gun, and my weak hand is right on my front mag. So those are my starting index points. The next thing I do is I bring up my weak hand and I rest my thumb right underneath, on my temple, right underneath the bill of my hat. Again, that is a natural index point. I know that every time I can replicate that because I can feel it. The next thing that I do is I will bring my hand up, almost like reversing the draw here. So I make sure my elbow stays in the right position, and I just bring in, like literally my elbow, it becomes a hinge here. And I just bring my hand straight up until it's my wrist or above my shoulder, right? Because that's typically the start position in USPSA, wrist above shoulders. So here you can see that it's just a reverse draw stroke. I'm not moving my shoulders. I'm not really pulling my elbows out or in. I'm just reversing the draw stroke. And now I know that here I can replicate this in this exact start position each and every time I draw. And that will improve the consistency of my draw. I can replicate my draw over and over again by having these index points and focusing on these index points. So now if you watch my draw, it's just a reverse, almost a reverse action, right? Hand comes down, hands come down. That's the other thing that you want to focus on too, is that your hands are moving at the same speed. If your support hand is moving slower than your moving slow, more than likely your strong hand is gonna mimic that speed. It's almost like they move in concert, right? So the faster you move your support hand, the faster that your strong hand is going to move. So then I just bring it out, come in, scoop the gun, start forming my grip as early as possible. So here my grip is formed. And now the last index point is, if you'll notice, the gun is perfectly indexed over and aligned with my dominant eye, which is my right eye. So I think that's another thing that people mess up is they don't actually have the gun indexed over their dominant eye. They have it sometimes indexed more towards the between their two eyes, and that just makes it much more difficult to get a good sight picture. And also, I think that's why a lot of people lose the dot. So here, what I've done just to show you from a side view, here's a side view of my draw here. And I'm going to play this, and this is actually two separate draws overlaid on one another. So you can see that the movement and everything is identical between these two draws. So here, these are two images overlaid with one another, and you can see that it almost looks like one image because, again, my draw stroke, all of the movements are very, very consistent. I'll play that again so that you can see it from the side. So at the end of my draw, when I'm practicing, one of the things that I'll look for is to make sure that my grip is solid. You know, my strong hand is where I want it positioned on the grip in relation to the beaver tail. It should be very high up. That my support hand is also in the right position. And then also the level of tension in my support hand as opposed to lesser tension on my strong hand. So those are the things that at the very end I evaluate. And then what I'm also evaluating is there any tension in my shoulders? Like am I creeping my shoulders up or shrugging my shoulders up at all? So those are the things that I want to watch out for. So one last thing that I want to add as well is if you notice, I'm not using a timer here. And that's because these reps, what I'm working on is the mechanics of the draw. I don't really care about speed here. What I care about is just making sure that I'm consistently drawing in the same way, the movements are the same, my indexes are the same. At the end of the draw stroke, my grip is formed exactly the way that I want it, so on and so forth. I don't need a timer for that. What I'll then do is maybe now that I've gotten this new draw stroke, because I did make a few tweaks in my draw stroke so that it aligns better with the Shadow 2. Once I have those hammered down, then I'll introduce the timer and I'll start working on speed. But as you can see, my surrender draw is definitely sub 1 second. I don't have any doubts in that. This is nothing unique to me. This is all stuff that's either been passed on by other shooters or in classes that I've taken. But I wanted to put this together because I know I've had some requests in the past from people that follow me to do a video like this. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. If you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. I'll definitely be sure to answer them. And as always, I very much appreciate all the likes and all the subs, guys. Again, thanks for watching and thanks for subbing.